So thank you for joining. This is I would say, the first official blab. So welcome, Tom. Thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. Very good guy, Tom is. I've met him recently at a autism workshop which I put on in Stoke-on-Trent, and Tom came along as a speaker. So Tom is very insightful to autism because he lives with autism. So Tom, over to you. Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Tom. I call myself Autistic Genius on the internet. I raise autism understanding via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I know, Instagram. So that's basically it, really. And
Great.
I'm trying to be a bit more, raise autism awareness, not necessarily as a speaker, a conference leader, but as an entertainer. I think that's the way I want to go.
Brilliant. Okay, so we have got a few people who probably want to come in, but we won't bring others in yet because I just want to touch on just certain topics what we're going to talk about during this interview, because I've got sort of like three main points which I want to get across and get people's views. So we'll bring people in if people want to come in. If you just type in the chat box, just introduce yourself, who you are, where you are, and what you would like to talk about. But the three main points I want to talk about is, one, I want to talk about how autism has moved forward in the last 50 years. Secondly, I want to talk about diagnoses, people getting diagnosed, which is important. And three, the key topic of the month, I think, is people with autism being sent away into units and being institutionalized, which is a very subject close to my heart and things that need to change. So we'll get on to this. So the first question is, how do you think autism has moved forward in the last 50 years, Tom?
I think when you think that way, I think 50 years, yeah, it's moved very far forward. It's no longer a myth. That's a good sign. It felt like a myth in this country at some point, even when I was growing up. But I think we need to go back further, and you look at maybe like 80 years ago, where in the Nazi Austria, Nazi Germany, people on the autism spectrum were just being killed and shot just because they're autistic, because of that. Oh, your cat's there, just because of they're autistic and they don't fit the Nazi thing, the pure person or whatever. So we moved exceptionally far forward. We've always going to have a long way to go, but I think it's always positive at the moment. And I think, as someone who's only been raising awareness or speaking out for just over a year, I'd say there's been a huge, almost revolution last year, like a real shift. And I think the phrase autism awareness is dead. I think we need to say autism understanding now, because I think when you say, if you say to people, if you heard of autism, they're going to say yes most of the time. So actually, we've raised awareness. So now we need to get understanding it. So I think awareness is dead. I think it's understanding now.
Yeah, so I've opened the seat now if anybody wants to call in and speak about this subject about autism moving forward from the last 50 years. So we've got Leon, I think it's Leon, I'm not quite sure, but we've got a question here. Well, we have moved forward from Canet agreeing with in the 1960s, that was a refrigerator for parents at 40 for usually forward from that. Yeah, so obviously it has moved forward, but there's issues around, as you mentioned, Tom, the understanding of autism and the acceptance. I remember about 30 years ago when people were sent on community day trips. And I remember reading a book, and this book was in the library, and it said that these committee members said that they took these people with autism on a day out, but they didn't really want to, because they didn't want to see these people with autism, their characteristics and their behaviour out in the public. Now, this was 30 years ago. So, that's a long time ago. So I still think I think we've come a long way from them.
I think it's naive to say that still doesn't happen. There have been reports last year of teachers sending letters home to their parents saying, we don't want your child in today because Ofsted are due, because of their behaviour, or maybe they're autistic and their behaviours erratic and unpredictable, say, because obviously you don't know what's going on in their heads. So it's still happening now, and to have it happening in a place like that is just not on, in my eyes. For me to be told if I was a parent and they said, we don't want your son in today because his behaviour is unpredictable, that immediately would say, well, I'm changing schools because you obviously don't know how to teach him. So I think we're still on that path. And I think for us to say we want acceptance, I think we got to be patient with that, because acceptance, you can't accept something you don't understand. It's just, I think that's just silly. Like, I think you need to understand something to accept it. In my eyes, you can't just look at something and go, yes. You have to understand it. I think, and that's why I think that awareness is dead. Then it's understanding. Once people get a general understanding, we can start looking for acceptance. So
just touch on that a bit for me, Tom, when you mentioned that awareness is dead. Can you just elaborate what you actually mean by that?
When I say awareness is dead, I mean we need to stop raising awareness. We need to assume that people have heard the word before, because it's everywhere, the words now. So we need to stop saying awareness. We need to raise understanding now. And that's something I've said on my page. I mean, I don't raise autism awareness anymore. I've made that very clear on my Facebook page. I've said I will no longer raise autism awareness. I will now be raising autism understanding. We're past awareness now. I think that I can safely say we're away from there, and I'm trying something new, really, to raise understanding. And
okay, so just give me the two examples of autism. Your point on autism awareness and autism understanding.
What the difference?
What it means to you?
Awareness is basically me saying, just telling people I have autism, and people go, oh, you have autism, and I say autism is a condition. Brilliant. But then I will take that and I'll go, who? And then they'll go, oh, brilliant, tell me more. And that's the understanding right there. So that's where if that makes sense, that's where I'm coming at. We go, okay, you've heard the word autism. What is it? Tell me about it. And that's where I'm at now. I've literally skipping, or this is autism. I'm going, boom, this is what it is. If that makes sense. So it's just like cutting out the first part of that conversation and going straight to the understanding. And it's not about stating the facts and getting your point across. It's about having fun with it. I have autism. I've lived with it. I've just done a show called Echolalia, which I want to do more and more of. And it's about my experiences by learning how to socialise and how my imagination works and how it's like impaired in certain areas. And like I was able, because I'm so comfortable, because I've managed to gain the understanding in myself and how it works. I can accept it. So I was able to kind of like self-deprecate, take the mick out myself a bit. And that makes the audience more comfortable and makes it more entertaining, I think. And I feel also it's reassuring to people because they don't feel alone, or when I hear me say it and they go, my son does that, my daughter does that, and it just makes them feel at ease. So I think that's what we're at now. Yeah, sure. Okay, so obviously, Tom, you're very high functioning, very articulate. You can communicate very well. What's your thoughts and your perceptions on when you meet somebody in the general public, because you come across quite articulate and you present yourself really well, and you come in a situation where something may slightly go wrong during that talk or situation, and somebody may look at you thinking, oh, this person's rather peculiar or strange. Would you actually tell that person that you have got autism, or no, if I had to, I would, yeah. If it was depend on the situation. But honestly, I don't really care what people think anymore. I've just stopped caring. There's just no point, because there's no point. I don't care what they think. So
Yeah, but this is the situation where, because people like you and myself are very high functioning, we can articulate.
Oh, I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
We can still have issues and problems with day-to-day things. So so for me, because we're not somebody who's typically autistic,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
we're non-verbal or whatever. So obviously sometimes it can be even more harder for us, because we are, I don't like using this terminology, Luke, completely typically normal, which I hate that word, normal.
I hate that though.
And so therefore, because we don't display the normal characteristics of autism, it's more harder for people to know what condition we have.
A lot of situations, everyone I know knows I've got autism.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be honest with you, most people pick up on it quite quickly, because I tend to wear this everywhere I go.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I will tell people that need to know, yeah. But I think it's, personally, I think it's a need to know basis.
Mm-hmm.
And because obviously we're on social media, people will accidentally find out anyway. So I do tend to tell people, like at work, I put it on every application form for work.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I do like that, I put it on. Anything, and yeah, I do tend to tell a lot of people I meet will find out eventually, or it will come up. Like, for example, if I'm at a dinner party or a party, someone might bring up the subject of autism. They go, "You got to meet this guy." Have you had that before?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, that's how it is for me now.
Yeah, because you just brought a good valid point up there when you mentioned about application forms and applying for jobs. You were saying that you actually put your condition on the form, because I get a lot of people who approach me and say, I'm applying for this job, Kevin. Should I put that I have, that I've got autism, or should I add the fact that I haven't got autism? And I always say to me, it's in the best interest to put down about your condition, because if you didn't do that, if something happened within employment law, like something happened in the job situation, you wouldn't have a leg to stand on, really, basically, because you haven't disclosed your condition. So therefore, I always say to people, it's best to write down on the application form that you are on the spectrum, in case there is issues in the future. Do you agree with that?
100%. It's, the problem is, if I went and told my boss I was autistic, they could easily say, "Oh, we never said anything," and they've got no proof. If it's on an application form, it's done. There's no, it's there, and you've got anything like that, it has to be in writing.
Yeah. So we have got the seat open at the moment. So we've got somebody who's talking. It's I'm assuming it's a lady. It says Leon. Would you like to call in and take part in this debate? Because we would like to get a female's point of views here as well. So we've got two males on. So please do feel free to call in. So just click on the call in button. The seat is open now. It's not locked. And please do call in. Don't be frightened. Don't be shy. Do call in. And we can have a chat, because it's better to get people's different opinions and different views on this. So we have got 41 people watching at the moment.
Whoa, really? That's a lot of people.
And we've got people on Twitter, but obviously this will be on YouTube as well after, so people can watch it back on replay. So the second question moving on to is about diagnoses. How do you think the current diagnosis system is in the UK? Do you think it's working or not?
I think it's too slow. I think it's too slow. I mean, my experience from what I've known is that with consistent nagging, it's going to take 2 years. And I think our biggest problem in the country, I work in nurseries, there's nothing preschool. There's no way of picking it up unless they can't speak. And I think a lot of kids are being missed before they get to school. So they get to school at 4 and they're not diagnosed for 2 years. And then by the time they're diagnosed, they're sitting their SATs and it's too late. So I think we need to take the diagnosis process and really drill it into, and I think it's not. I'm not saying it's like, oh, it's not the nursery's fault, because how are they going to know what to look for? It's silly. I go to nursery and I see kids and I go, that's a bit. Come on, we've got people who have, and it's just, that's where I think the problems are. More people need to have understanding a lot, and that's where we're missing it. I think there's a lot of.
Yeah, definitely agree there. We did have one call there. I do apologise about that person who just tried to call and the seat was locked, but I was distracted by my cats jumping up and down in the background. So please feel free to call back in and I will accept the call. So apologies about that. And yes, Tom, I quite agree with you there. So we've got a message coming in here saying, thank you for sharing your conversation and points on autism. Bringing awareness today resonates strongly, as I agree. Keeping public communications is important. So thank you for that message. And please, yes, we've got a caller coming in.
Calling.
Yeah, so I'm just going to accept the caller. And thank you for joining in on this live debate. It's Jen. Sorry, Jen, do apologise about that. So we'll just wait for a few seconds to Jen come in.
Magic.
So we've got Jen coming in now. I've accepted the call and hopefully she will call in. Hello, Jen. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. I've never done this before.
Oh, well, thank you for joining. So obviously, Jen,
Hi.
Jen, you've been hearing the debate. Can you give us your insight to what you've just heard?
Well, the diagnosis takes entirely too long in this country. There's too many people who are left waiting for years and years and years to get the answers that they need in order to, get on with their lives. And it's really, really, really sad to see the wasted time for children. The wasted time. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't mean to be rude. What is your accent, Jen?
Oh God, Kentucky. I'm from Kentucky.
States. Oh right.
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. But
I've got a lot of issues with America.
I've got issues with America too. That's why I live here. But yeah, it's yeah. I mean, diagnosis for me. I was 37 when I got a diagnosis. I'm approaching 40, so it was absolutely critical for me, really, as a person. As a it's almost been like a rebirth. Really.
Would you agree with women that? No, don't take this the wrong way, because this is a generalisation. But do disagree? Do you agree? Like, growing up with your issues, did they assume it was mental illness? Like they thought it was like depression, and then eventually they had to chisel away all the things it looked like till they got.
That is exactly what happens with women, and the problem for women is that more capable of masking the problems.
It's not necessarily more capable. It's natural.
It's absolutely natural. It's built into the female whatever they called it. What did I read? Social.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I can't remember the phrase, but it's basically a desire not to be seen as different. So the drive to blend in, to hide, to not be seen as someone with issues. I mean, I personally did not end up with any huge mental health labels, but quite often you find that particularly with teenagers, that it'll end up being something like emerging personality disorder.
Yeah. There's an amazing woman in England called Sarah Hendricks.
Oh, I know her. Yeah, she's lovely.
Met her. She's a legend.
Absolutely.
She sums it up in a sentence. Perfect. They say it's all anxiety, obviously. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it. And she says, women always say yes when they're anxious. Men will say no. So an autistic man will go, no, I'm done. Lock away in a room. A girl would be like, will just keep saying yes and yes and yes. And that's why it appears like mental illness, because they take too much on.
That's exactly right.
Jane, can I just come back to you regarding your autism diagnosis? You said that you got your diagnosis at 37.
Yes.
How long did you have to wait for a diagnosis?
Well,
and why did it take so long?
Well, I was the last person in the house to get a diagnosis. My husband, my eldest daughter got hers in 2007. My husband got his shortly thereafter. Then my youngest daughter, the only other daughter, got hers in 2010. And then I was sort of the last person to sort of think that you're always the last one to know, aren't you? And, you know, we saw it in everybody else. We saw issues for everybody else and managed to miss me completely. So, so it took hitting bottom, and it took, you know, a personal sort of crisis to propel me onwards. And I went to my GP just before the Christmas in 2013 and got the referral. I was seen in February, and by April I had a diagnosis. So, and this is Birmingham, so I couldn't have been any luckier.
Birmingham I'm in Redditch.
Yes. Really? Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. Erdington.
Okay, so can I ask both of your opinions on the you know, do you both agree with the labels? Do you think it's important that somebody has a label of a diagnosis of autism? Some professionals and some people think that the label's not important, others do. What's your thoughts on that? So we'll go to Tom first.
I think, as for me, I think it is important, not in the sense that this is who you are, this is what you are. It's not like that. Oh, no. It's to do with your rights and the law, and the label gives you the right to the support you need. To be honest, if you don't have the label, you don't have the right to the support you need according to the law. So that's the only reason I can see a label being necessary. If everyone had the right to the support that I'm entitled to, the label is not important. But I'm afraid we don't. And there's a lot of things that come with having a label. Like, you need, some people on the spectrum may need round-the-clock care. And, you know, if they ain't got a diagnosis, they're not going to get funded round-the-clock care and things like that. I think it goes for all things. I think that's the only reason it's necessary, just for the support. Yeah.
And Jen, your thoughts on that?
I'm right there with Tom. I mean, that's exactly it. Is without that very specific label, it's extremely difficult to pursue any sort of support and to be guaranteed to be able to access it. It's that, and also there's it gives you a way of reframing your past. You know, if you're sitting there feeling very, very guilty about, or maybe not guilty, inadequate about the things that have not worked out for you the way you thought that they would in your past, like I didn't finish university, or, you know, didn't finish stay in a particular relationship. It's almost like you're giving yourself permission to look back at those things and not be so hard on yourself, because there's an explanation for why it didn't go the way it does for finger quotes normal people, and why it's okay to let that go, you know, not sit and feel guilty about it, or focus on it, and then yeah, definitely.
Okay, that's great. So the last final question for this lab interview, which is quite a crucial question. So we've covered the diagnosis, we've covered about autism moving forward in the last 50 years. The last final question, which is really I'm really compassionate about, and sometimes get really, really angry about it, is that when people who are on the autistic spectrum, even whether they're, you know, mid-range to high functioning, or people with mental health conditions, get sent away, locked into a mental health unit, or, you know, a unit which is not even geared up for people with autism. They get locked away. They probably get a section put on them for some unknown reason. And, you know, I, as a campaigner in the UK, I hear so many cases and parents approaching me saying that, you know, their child has been locked away for 20 months, you know, 2 years. One lady I campaigned for recently, not long ago, a girl in Wales, you know, she was sent from Wales to Brighton, you know, and she was nearly there for a year before she actually got back home. So as you two living with autism, what's your thoughts on this? Because some of these people, you know, are non-verbal and they can't speak out, they can't communicate, you know. So, you know, my heart goes out to him, because I just dread to think if that was my twin who was non-verbal and who was sent away and, you know, locked in a room or a complex where, you know, they are not simply geared up for people with autism. So, Jen, what's your thoughts on that?
It's absolutely devastating. It's heartbreaking. It really can't be allowed to go on. There's got to be a better way to deal with these things than locking people away. It's not a good use of resources, but it's a horrible dereliction of humanity. It's absolutely atrocious.
But why do you think it's happening? Why do you think it's going on?
There's lots of reasons. I mean, the health service can be a bit short-sighted. Not to criticize or anything, because obviously as a Yank, I'm grateful for the health service, but it can be a bit short-sighted in the way that resources are allocated, funding is allocated, and they can look at doing things in a short-term way that doesn't necessarily benefit the person. Rather
Tom,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and Tom, your thoughts on this?
It's tricky. My understanding is, I'm thinking behaviour. So
yeah,
that's for me. It's behaviour. I think anyone whose behaviour is that their behaviour is only a danger to themselves, it's something that can be dealt with in their home environment. But when they're dangerous, when the behaviour is dangerous to people around them, that it becomes a totally different game, and that's the problem. Autistic people can't communicate, so instead of telling you that this noise is too loud, they're just going to hit you, and people don't know what to do, and it devastates me, because it gets to a point where these people get bigger and bigger, and they're just too strong, and it's and you just know where to turn, and that's right. And people get desperate and they just do things, and I think that's the problem. I think it's what it is. I think there's nowhere to turn. I mean, what would you do? I mean, if I think there's just nowhere to turn for these people. They just go, oh, we got, and that's the only place people can think for them to go. But I just think there needs to be more specialist schools.
Absolutely.
So what do you both think that health, social services, and other professionals should be doing when there's a crisis in the family, where you've just mentioned, Tom, where somebody's maybe have behavioural issues, instead of sending them 100 miles away to the other end of the country? What do you think they should be doing?
They should always be asking why. Never how do we stop it? It's why. And if they ask why, and it gets to a point where the only reason they're doing it is because they are not they know they're aware of it, or there's something wrong, there's something going on in that there needs to be, I don't know, helped or treated, there could be something else with the autism, then but they have to ask why and why and why until they get an answer.
I agree. Yeah,
medication and that sort of thing is the last resort.
Well, behavior is communication. That is the whole point of it. So, like Tom says, if you can get at the root of something, you can find out why it happens.
What people never seem to get in education and everything, behavior is a reaction.
Yeah,
it's not. I don't just get angry with someone. I don't just get angry. If someone says something to me that's not nice, that makes me angry. So that behavior is a reaction to that. With autism, it's the way the information is processed. You don't look at autism as a behavioural issue or a learning issue or a whatever. It's a cognitive information processing.
So do you both think it's because it's a lack of understanding and a lack of understanding that these people are being sent away? Because some of these parents I've been speaking to, where some of the children or adults, they are not aggressive people. They, some of them may have behavioural issues, some of them don't. But even the ones who haven't got behavioural issues are being sent to these units.
Social services have a pile that big per person.
They do.
And they're expected to do it all. They've got a high staff turnover, high workload, low pay, expected to do everything. And that's what happens. It ends up being quick fixes because they tick certain boxes and they go next.
Yep.
That's what's happening.
That's exactly what happened.
Can't argue. That is happening in Birmingham, because I've heard from somebody who works in social services. That is happening. So
It's a lack of resources. I mean, Birmingham's taken a huge hit as far as the funding. Yeah, well,
there's an old phrase that I've always said: "Don't hate the player, hate the game."
Hate the game. Yep.
Well, you two guys, thank you for joining me. It's been, we've been on half an hour. It's been an interesting debate, and we hope to have more of these each week. There's going to be weekly blabs. Next week, we're going to be talking about internet trolling.
Fun.
So, that's an interesting one. So we'll be talking about that next week. So I really, really appreciate for you both coming on, sharing your views, your opinions. This will begin on YouTube within the next 10 minutes or so after this. So people who miss it can go back and watch it on replay. So again, I just want to say thank you very much. And I really appreciate having you both on my show. Thank you.
That's all right. Thank you.
Anytime. Thanks.
Have a great day.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.